Tēnā tātou I runga I tēnei hui, tira ki te ana, ai a tātou katoa, mahi kaha ana, mō ngā tāngata, tērā pēr kaore I runga I tēnei hui. Tira mō ngā iwi, mō ngā whānau, mō ngā hāpuri, ai manaaki nei tātou. Nō reira, kia tahuri tātou ki te inui, kia inui tātou. Kia tue nei mātou au ponanga I tuku whakamoimi tia tuana kia koe. Kia tau mai rao manaakitanga ki runga kia mātou I tēnei wā. Kia tau mai rao manaakitanga ki runga kia kingi tū hei tia mahi nei o na mahi kia piki te ora, te māramatanga, me te mōhio ki runga ki ai ngā wā katoa. Kia pērā hoki rā mo ngā ruruhi mo ngā korohe kei runga I ngā marae maha. Kia pērā hoki rā mo mātou hui tahi nei, e kōrero tahi nei, e wānanga tahi nei. I nei rā ngā ino I ka tuku atu kia koe nau, te honore nau, te kroria rire hau, pai mārire kia tātou katoa. Tēnā tātou.
Pai mārire.
Kia ora mai tātou. Tēnei te mihi kia koutou katoa, ni ana kia koe huirama. Hei te whakatūwhera tō tātou hui. Kia ora tātou. Welcome everyone to our JMA. Good to see everyone. And I know it's been a really busy time with COVID in our region. And kia kaha to everyone who is helping with the response in all sorts of ways with vaccinations and screenings and food parcels and any other support that you are offering and part of. So we'll make our way through our meeting agenda, noting I think there were a couple of late apologies or apologies for lateness, I should say. Gavin, I understand.
Yes, Gavin for lateness, Maxine Moanga Tūwhangai from Mango Māori, also for lateness, and an apology from Mayor Allen.
Oh, ka pai, yeah. Thank you, and I don't think we have any apologies on our side. I think everyone is present, including an additional member, Donald Turner, who is going to sit in today. So if we go to...
Excuse me, Hararangi, can I have a mover and a seconder for that, please?
Yeah, sorry, I have forgotten that. That's a good thing. Janet Gibb and Lisa Thompson are moving and seconding. All those in favour, aye. We could just wave and against. Carried, ka pai, thank you. Confirmation of status of the agenda. Do we have any other comments on the agenda or any other business that we would like to?
No, I think we're happy with the agenda as stated, yep.
Ka pai, thank you. And then do we need a mover and a seconder for the, okay, let's have a mover and a second. I'm happy to move and it will second. All those in favour, aye, and against, ka pai, kia ora tātou. Disclosures of interest. Are there any particular disclosures of interest that people would like to make? We are all interested, and I don't believe we have any conflicts, certainly not that I'm aware of. So let's note that there is nothing to note. For the minutes, I'll move. Someone else second, please.
Oh, we don't need to move that one. We just put there were no disclosure. Sorry.
Okay, fine. All right, let's move on then to the confirmation of the minutes. We'll get the hang of this. By the time we get to year 3, by the time I retire, we'll get the hang of this. We've got the minutes there to following the agenda. Do we have any comments on the minutes? Janet's waving. Does that mean you have a comment, Janet, or you're moving?
I was moving it to move us along.
Okay, and Lisa is seconding. And I can't, of course, I don't have everyone on screen, so I can't see you all at once. Okay, so we have a mover and a seconder. Are there any comments about the minutes? All right, so all those, Mana?
Anything just in terms of the action to share the social procurement strategy. Just to let the council people know that first of all we have to share it with our te whakakitenga, a tribal parliament, and when that's done, then we can socialise that with our council partners.
Yeah, ka pai. I was going to go to the actions next, if that's okay. All right, so we've got a mover and a seconder for the confirmation of the minutes. Are we all in favour? Aye. And against? Kyle? Okay, to pai. Thank you, everyone. Minutes have been moved. So can we go through the actions then? Under the matters arising from last time, Waikato Tainui will collaborate with Waikato District to organise a hui mana whenua groups regarding boundaries and resourcing. I know that this has moved on since this action was, and there's a paper in the agenda as well, which maybe we can take up the discussion more fully when we get to the paper. The second action there is engagement on the long-term plan. And again, we've moved on since the long-term plan was done, but there was support offered and given, as far as I'm aware, from the Waikato Tainui team. Social procurement, Marae has just spoken to that. And then the next one was, Waikato District Council Chief Executive to advise Waikato Tainui who to liaise with to develop the JMA work plan. And I don't know if we've had a joint session, as far as I can tell, on the development of the work plan. Who can speak to that from the District Council?
Sam, can you speak to that one?
Sam.
Mute. Kia ora tātou. So in regards to that, where the council is working on with the JMA, there's a lot of, because how the JMA is changing. And so, and with the new document that has come out by the government, our legal team are looking at it, but there's still a lot of work to be done on it. I'm working with members of the legal team. I'm working with our team who looks after JMA. There's a lot of words in there that I don't really and fully understand, and so I'm asking them to break it down. And so once I get all of those, Madam Chair or co-chairs, then I'll come back. But at the moment, we're just working on it and trying to understand what all the changes are all about.
I'm not sure what you're referring to though, Sam, in terms of changes. Are you talking about RMA changes?
No, the JMA.
JMA changes?
Yeah. No, the RMA changes, yeah, that one.
Yes, okay.
Yes, yeah.
I guess while those things are happening in the background, there's still the work plan that needs to be done. And I see there's some of it, there is a draft in our papers today, but as far as I'm aware, that hasn't been developed with us. And there's nothing wrong with the whake that are on there, but ideally it's about getting a work plan that we're all going to work to, basically. And I'm aware that when we had our first joint session at the start of the year, there was an agenda that we had proposed in terms of the things that were priorities for us. So that helped to give some guidance.
In regards to the work plan, I didn't use that work plan as a guide. What I wanted to do is just to wait for the changes in the document and then work through it again. Now there's work that Mara has done previously in regards to the RMA. However, that needs to be changed. I've worked along with what's her name? Or one of the ladies here, one of the boss ladies who said, you have to do this, you have to do that. And then that's what I mean is I don't fully understand how it works. So that's why I'm getting someone else to help me out within the office.
Kia ora, Brendan.
Kia ora. So Hinarangi, we actually had a kōrero yesterday just about leading into this hui. And one of the things that we talked about was really putting a framework in place And we talk around Māori outcomes, but and it actually leads into what Maro was saying around social procurement. Because we're also thinking about that as well. So I think what I'm hearing here is create a bit of an overarching plan of working together between Waikato District Council and Waikato Tainui, right?
Yep.
Putting together a framework. So I think, Sam's touching on RMA, but I think there is a need for something a bit more kind of holistic, if you want to call it that, that we can progress on certain matters, because there is the strategic work program, which is one of the items here. But I think there's a bit more to it, because we've also got the mana whenua for it. We've got there are the wards, just putting everything together and say, this is what we're working on together, and this is how we will make progress over time. Does that sound like a good plan?
Well, I think that's what was supposed to have happened before today, so that today we could actually go, yep, that's our plan. I think we all want to get real value out of these sessions, right? And the session should be the point where we're as a group just going, yep, all good, great progress, thank you, and let's move on to the next thing. But we really do need the work plan done, and there's a few levels to it, like you're saying, Brendan, in terms of the bigger picture. So what is the JMA supposed to achieve? And I would think that through all of that, what we should be working on as a principle is that most of these things are done together. That they're actually completed together. We design and develop them together, and then we as the governance group just can go, yes, awesome, thank you for your work, and let's get going. So that's so happy to actually, to what you've said today, Brendan, is great, but we just need the hui between management teams to get it going. Yeah. And like I said, so we helped. We tried to set a plan or set an agenda at the beginning of the year when we had all of the councils in at the hui at Hopopu to say, here's our priorities for the next 2-3 years, and that's probably where we should be looking out at least. And then that was supposed to help feed what would be the work plan. So what we've got today, we can still discuss, but it's actually the commitment to having Sam sit down with Mara, Donna, the team, and whoever else should be besides Sam to agree on to at least draft up a work plan for us all, and that might include what's our bigger framework or those sorts of kaupapa.
I wonder, Hinarangi, we've just had the very timely arrival of Gavin.
Oh, apa.
From the fire into the frying pan, Gavin. Hinarangi, would you like to just restate that last part, and perhaps Gavin's comment on that as a more strategic way forward?
Kia ora, Gavin. We're just going through the actions actually, which is we're on page 4, which is developing the work plan for the JMA committee. We note that there is some work that's been done in the papers. However, that's not a joint piece of work, and there's probably and so we need to respond to the action in terms of let's get our teams together, let's get them to determine what the work plan will be over the next 2 or 3 years, and then then makes these meetings more meaningful for all of us, but also it means that things get done between our 6 months, our 6-month hui. And then Brennan was also mentioning how at your hui yesterday there was talk around the framework and how all the different, so the mana whenua groups, this group and others would, I guess there's a bigger plan of work as well in all of that. But to me they're related, they're related pieces of work, mahi, in terms of mana whenua and the iwi.
So would totally agree with that, and happy to do that. We did, I remember, Donna will remember, and Mariah will remember, we had a session a couple of years ago, I think, when we actually sat down and did go through and agree on a work plan. So I think we just need to do the same.
Yeah, it would be good to get that commitment that will happen. And it would be good to kind of be able to see it in draft before we get to our next hui as well, and to get the governance input into it as well.
Yep.
Okay, so let's move on in terms of actions. We talked about long-term plan on page 6, acknowledge that the Metropolitan project was of strategic importance and that we will collaborate together. Do we know where this got to?
Madam
Was this
Chair,
part of proof?
Yep,
Oh.
Madam Chair, I'm happy to talk to that.
Okay.
Yeah, so I don't think Brian Crowd is in the hurry, but WDC and TGH staff have met twice over the last 2 months to just progress this. You may be aware that Mary has been identified as a node of strategic importance in future-proof from an industrial perspective, but also acknowledging the residential area in Mary. But TGH and WDC staff met to look at TGH's aspirations for the industrial zone. So zoning is not the issue, but we're just working through a process looking at transport, water and wastewater implications to support TGH's aspiration for the site. So it's work in progress at the moment, but we've made good progress since the last JMA meeting between the two organizations. So that's underway.
Thank you. And then the last one there is terms of reference for the joint committee to be checked in relation to membership. And I think there has been some mahi done on that. Who can speak to that action?
I can, because I've spoken to Mara about it when she came through, and in regard to the membership and everything, you've still got your vacancy on your portion of the membership, and so another person can be appointed.
Yeah.
But in regard to whakakitenga reps being involved, it's an open meeting, so they can come along and get that governance experience by joining the meeting anyway, without actually being a voting member, or you just accord them speaking rights at the beginning of the meeting.
Okay.
So, Madam Chair, the other thought was that you can have, as we do, you can have a alternate for if members are not available, and we thought that was another way in which you could be adding other people to the so effectively they're a reserve until they're needed. So that's another way in which you could approach it.
Okay. All right. Mara, there's a couple of solutions here. Can we can then proceed with our actions that we wanted to do?
Yeah, my understanding was that the whakakitenga rep, our intention was that they have full speaking and voting rights. They be regarded as a full member of the committee. So that means that the terms of reference need to be adjusted to enable that. And we already have an alternate who is Rangita, who's on today.
So as I explained last time, Mara, is to change that terms of reference and actual membership to give them voting and speaking rights on their thing would also require council to appoint more full members as well, because the whole point of this JMA is to have equal membership on it. So that's why Gavin suggested the alternate and inviting them to give them speaking rights at the meeting. It just means they wouldn't be able to vote if the member was in place, was in attendance, sorry.
So you're saying basically the limit would be 4 in terms of speaking and voting?
Yes.
Without changing terms of reference?
Yep.
And currently we have 2 full members and 1 alternate, and a proposal for 1 whakakitenga rep. So there's no increase on our side.
Yeah. So it's doable, basically. Okay. Without needing to change terms of reference at this point.
So, Madam Chair, if I can just double check with Gayleen. So the committee itself is comprised of, is it 3 members from
Correct.
Waikato Tainui,
Yep.
3 members from Waikato District?
And alternates.
But there's nothing that says that you can't have more than one alternate if you wanted to.
Correct.
Yeah. So, yeah. So I guess it's really up to the committee. It's really up to the committee. If you want to have more than 6 members in total, you can. We would just, as you will, I'm sure, have your own approval process. We would also have to go through an approval process from the council side as well.
Okay.
Kia ora, Hinerangi. Can I? So just in terms of that last point there, Gavin, the approval process, yes, we have a process for that. And just for clarity, in here, on the front agenda page, it has the membership of our of this particular hui. It shows that there's 2 Waikato Tainui members and a vacancy, and then there's 3 Waikato District members and an alternate. And so all we're saying is that we want to fill these positions in the way and the process that we are undertaking, and want to get clarity from this committee that that is all right to do.
Which is what we've said, Huirama, you can fill your vacancy and you can appoint as many alternates as you like, which could be Te Whakakitinga reps as alternates. That's your internal process. So you don't have to change the terms of reference if you stay within the parameters of the 3 full members and alternates.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that. We'll complete our process then, and if we feel like we have any other questions, we'll come back to you, okay, in between the meetings.
So Hinerangi, just come back. Mara can come back directly to me. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Just, Madam Chair, just one point of clarification. The number of people with speaking rights is not limited, so that's subject to the approval of the chair. So it's just the voting that's limited to the
voting. Yeah, and we want voting rights because we want our person to not feel like they're here just to sit and listen, but to have some rights, that go with it as well. Kapai, thank you everyone for that. We're going to go now to the report from Waikato Tainui.
Kia ora, Hinerangi. So I'll take the report as read, and we've provided just 2 updates in regard to Māori representation and our COVID response. The first point around the representation was just to convey our disappointment with the level of engagement undertaken by the council on the proposals for the Māori Awards. And I think we expressed that at the Zoom that we attended a couple of weeks ago. There's ongoing discussion, and Donald's heavily involved along with Mahana, who was on the hui, working with Sam to work through the names of the wards now that they have been split, and just an expectation there that we will work hard with council to improve the engagement, just in terms of time, information provided, and the opportunity for us to talk to our marais and get some consensus. There needs to be some time for that. At 2.3, we just wanted to share with you, and I know that Lisa's involved, Councillor Thompson's involved, on our work with Tauri Kura New Zealand Limited on a campaign to recruit and support Māori candidates to stand in the next elections. So the lead-in time, we've already started the conversations, and we understand that, we need to pull people in to stand, we need to encourage people to vote, and we need to build a campaign behind our candidates. So that's just sharing some information. Some of those dates that are at regards the wānanga have obviously had to change because of COVID, but the 11th of November hui is still confirmed. It will be live streamed, and with levels, as long as the levels allow, there will be a face-to-face hui as well, and we will circulate that information at the right time. And then at the second part of the hui, we've provided just an update and some information about our response to this latest COVID outbreak, essentially around the food and care packs we've been providing, the technological support we've provided through comms, Facebook and the call centre, our rangatahi focus, noting that our rangatahi are lagging behind in terms of vaccination and testing, and building the capacity or supporting our iwi and Māori providers to respond. And then just a small list there of some of the other things that we've done in this space, noting that this report is a couple of weeks old now, and that obviously more has happened in that time, and Donald will be able to provide a much more up-to-date report than I can. And I guess in terms of ongoing discussions with council as our community learns to live with COVID and building the resilience of our community together. So how can Waikato Tainui and Waikato District Council, what are the things that we can do together to build resilience of our community as a discussion point? So the recommendation is there is that the Joint Committee receive this update. Kia ora tātou.
Are there any comments or questions?
I was just wondering if there was a further update from Donna and since the writing of the report.
No, kia ora koutou. No, not too much more to add and by way of update. I probably, one of the other initiatives that actually has been stood up is, caring for our whānau within Arohe. So, of course, a community isolation quarantine facility has been stood up in Hamilton, and that's at Distinction Hotel in Te Rapa. It was gifted the name Omohia from our king as part of the Tongi Kura to guide us in terms of caring and protecting our whānau. So that's been stood up. At the moment, there are quite a number of cases, obviously, over the past few days. So overnight, just today, 5 new cases. So it will take our numbers in the quarantine facility to be about 29 whānau members being cared for. And so there is some wraparound support, which we're working in partnership with the Waikato DHB on. So there are some high needs from some of our whānau in our communities. Of course, from right through from Taumatu, Kihiki, Whatawhata, so it's Raglan and in Hamilton. So it's across our Wairohe.
Thank you for that. And if I may, Madam Chair, I think this is the silver lining, I suppose, on this COVID cloud is that we have worked very well together, and we've as we in the more wider review of government and local government, that's going on in the background, we certainly see from our perspective that the well-beings are becoming really a very clear focus for district council or for council, local government, and the way in which we are working together to look after our whānau, I think is showing the very best of that. So that's, look, I really appreciate that. And I think also, Mara, in terms of my overall commentary, thank you for your report. Lots of good things that we're working together on, and I'm pleased to hear also your comments on 2.2, the engagement in regards to the Māori ward. So there is lots of work going on at this point moving forwards. I guess from a district council perspective, or from a partner perspective within the JMA, a little bit disappointed with your, with your comments about the engagement not being as you'd hoped from the earlier parts. And I guess our perspective is to look forward and to continue to improve. We do note that, as is reflected in our minutes actually from previous meetings, this was a formal part of our meetings back in July 2020. Manaki did an excellent paper for us in September, 30th of September last year, well before we went out and talked to anybody in the wider community. So I guess it depends on how you define that formal engagement, but we had hoped that that raising things in this forum a year and a half ago, leading into the decisions now, was part of that earlier engagement. But we certainly take on board the comments that we need to continue to improve the way in which we work.
Through the chair, is it all right if I Donald here?
Janet had actually put her hand up, Donald, before you. So I can come to you after Janet, Donald.
Ka pai.
Yes, thank you so much. And it does include you in my my comments here, Don, because I just want to congratulate the marae in personal experience with Taupri and Don and Ngārawa here for the response around the COVID vaccinations. Amazing organisation and involving people, including people and the volunteers in the amount of work and the amount of injections that we managed to get through last weekend and the weekend before in Taupri. And it's very obvious that marae in particular are good and experienced around looking after people and the well-beings. I just wanted to personally say thank you on behalf of the community because they don't often get the chance to tell you this. And Don in particular, an incredible host, an incredible organiser. So thanks very much.
Thank you, Janet. Donald?
Oh, kia ora. Kia ora whānau, through the chairs, everyone online. Kia ora, Janet. I just coming back to the wards names and say that just picking up on the report that Mara did around communication, mahitahi, and actually working together, but giving a good time for that. So we have connected with Galen and the democracy team to create a strategy moving forward, which has been quite good in its time frame. So we're sort of looking at, that's a good thing, is that we're giving each other time to work together and so that we can connect to the right parties involved, which are our community ratepayers, people, etc. So to the team, Galen, and to our team, that mahitahi is quite important and having that comms. The other part is picking up on what Brendan and Hinerangi were saying about strategically, how do we inform each other, Waikato Tainui, but more so the District Council, around some of your key priorities moving forward so that we can actually participate to inform and let our key stakeholders, which are ratepayers, know as well in the future. So it's a strategic plan that needs to happen, but, include us as a part of that and give us quite good timing. And we can, like what Janet says, that is our specialty, manaki tangata, oranga tangata, oranga whenua, oranga whānau. And what's I need to acknowledge is the team, Mara, Donna, and how they backed our marae up to support the well-being for all of our communities and people in the communities that we have and we can do these strategic outcomes and well-being for our people from our marae point of view, and that everyone will benefit. We just need to be a part of that planning and construction and not necessarily be determined by timeframes, because we can challenge that for the well-being of our people. So, yeah, just reiterating the mahitahi, giving us each time and connecting to our people at the marae level, which I know, and mihi to Huirama for the mahi that they've been doing as well, to Manaaki Tangata, and kia ora Janet, pai kia ora whānau ka pai.
Kia ora, Donald, thank you. I just wanted to just say, you know, we think that the Māori wards, kaupapa, the fact that we have them now is really, really exciting. And we just, I don't want to say grateful because it doesn't quite feel like partnership, but, you know, we're just really excited for our whānau to think of that as a way in which they can engage, you know, in a fresh way in the local government. And so for us, the naming of those wards matters in terms of being able to get them engaged and to think about the fact that this is their rohe, this ward will represent them, you know, and their rohe. And so when we were consulted on the name, but only the day before the deadline, then I guess we all felt like it wasn't quite the conversation we had been wanting to have. So we're going to continue on with the process. We know, you know, councils will. There's an appeal process. We're going to use that in order to come up with something that we think will resonate with the whānau, because we want them to be excited as much as we are about this new, you know, this new world with Māori wards in it. And so thank you for your assistance with that, and thank you to Donald for helping to lead the discussion on that. Huirama, would you like to make any comments on the Waikato Tainui report? Or just check in with you and Rangita?
Kariko, just ensuring that the actions that, you know, around this continued communicating and operating is followed through, and that we continue to progress in a better thing.
Bye. Thank you.
Mea hoki, Hinarangi, I'm supportive of what's been outlined in the paper. Kia ora.
Thank you.
Yeah, sorry, just sorry, through the chair. Just one more thing I forgot.
Ka pai.
So just around the strategic identification through district council, with regards to population growth in the district, and especially within different towns, what is want to be a part of that discussion, in the sense that as populations increase, example, Ngaruahe through to Taupiti, boundaries are changing with regards to who the council is, etc., etc. So we want to be a part of that. How do we become, when do we be notified as a marae, as a tribe, as a partner, prior to, rather than just finding out that a boundary has been moved, and then all of a sudden my town's welcome to Taupiti is in a different district, and the marae who's just down the road doesn't even know that. So that's just an example of how do we communicate the population and the line boundary movements consulting with the tribes before things have actually occurred. So just a strategic communication process, and especially to our marae and Waikato Tainui. Kia ora.
I can probably respond to that if you like, Madam Chair. It's really interesting. Galen is looking very sage on the screen here and doing well not to leap up and down to talk about the ways in which we do try and engage. But I think we've all got a bit of engagement fatigue as well. We have to think about just the number of things that our communities and you know, Tainui in particular is, you know, representing the whole iwi as well. There's just so many things to respond to, and for us to get engagement around the representation review process is you know, is difficult, is challenging, and to try and get you know, at the hapu level, at the marae level, to give that input into where those lines should be drawn, knowing it has to fit with a mesh block overlay, because that's the legislation we work in, has been very, very difficult and quite challenging. So I'll take Don's point on board entirely. I would say that, Madam Chair, your comment about not wanting to use the word grateful is entirely correct. It's not about being grateful, it's about council actually understanding the voices that need to be heard, the voices that need to be at the table. And we work very hard to try and achieve that through the now inclusion of the elected members. So that's not a question of gratefulness, that's just a question of fairness and representation. And I think about now, and actually Brendan reminded me of this the other day, challenged me to think about what engagement with iwi looked like even 5 years ago when I started. Right, my first term was 5 years ago with Lisa, my colleague from Raglan. We have now in place 2 JMAs, one with yourselves, one with Maniapoto. Manga Māori has been introduced through that time. The Mana Whenua Forum that we're about to hear from Sam about are being introduced. The elected members, 2 Māori elected members are being introduced as well. This is all over a 5-year period, starting with the JMA or 2 JMAs, but all those other things have been added, and that's a tremendous progress that's been made to really have a fair representation at the table where the decisions are made. I'm excited about that as the work continues.
Kapai. Yeah, agree.
Kapai.
Oh, there was something else I wanted to talk about, but it's just gone. Thank you for those comments. It is about partnership, and I think lots of progress has been made. And it's really, I think, actually just keeping on top of what we think is coming in the future, and so that we can have the discussion here before we kind of get to consulting with the wider community. So I think Donald's point around population growth, we see it happening in Ngarawahia and Taupiri significantly, and we really want to, I guess, signal a concern we have maybe at the next election, where we start to think about whether or not boundaries move again, and maybe that's the kind of thing that should be on our work plan, that a year, 18 months out from those next elections, we have it on our work plan and we're having a discussion about whether or not the boundary moves for those 2 wards. So I think that's our proactive way of getting in front of those potential issues in the future. But if we could, there's a recommendation there that we receive the update from Waikato Tainui. I'm happy to move that. If I could have a second, Axel, thank you very much. All those in favour, aye. And against, Carl. Thank you very much. And I'll hand it over to Axel now to take us through the next agenda items.
Yeah, thank you very much, Hinarangi, and appreciate that. So next on our agenda today, we have what I consider, Sam, the meat and the potatoes of our contribution to talking about the mahi that's been underway. Sam, would you like to lead us through this report?
So the first one on the report is in regards to mana whenua options. So the council have decided, well, not so much decided, but thought that the options should be divided into 4 parts: north, south, east, and west. You'll see on the report that because the north is a vast area, it's suggested or proposed to break it into 2 clusters. A good thing about it is that that Waikato Tainui sent a letter to the council, was it last year, or was it last year, Mara, or this year in June? And we had the same whakaaro. I don't know if I pinched your idea or you pinched mine, but who cares? We got the same thought. And so that's that. There has been engagement with different groups, and you'll see it on page 20, I think, who we have engaged with. When you look on page 20, there are 3 cluster groups that make up different marae. We've also been to the Kaumātua Forum, Ngā Marae Tōpū, and so those are the things that have been put in place, and I would take it that you've all read it. In the last part on page 17, I'll ask Gavin if he would talk to number 5, the consideration financial stuff. Is that okay, Mr. Chair or Madam Chair? Yeah.
So one of the issues that we hadn't resolved with the council was the question around how we might remunerate or reimburse members of the Mana Whenua forums. I mean, our intent with them is to effectively run, because there are 4 forums, have one meeting with each forum every month. So sorry, I'm probably confusing things here. So effectively, each forum would meet 3 times a year. And so we would have a meeting, effectively one meeting each month, and work our way through. So where we got to in discussions with council on Monday was to recommend that we set aside a sum of money, and we've agreed on $50,000, that money would be used to provide reimbursement or remuneration for members of the Mana Whenua forums. We've looked at what other councils have done, such as Hamilton and Tauranga. And so what we would ideally like to do is try and find an iwi trust or iwi trust that we could pay the money to, and then rely on the iwi trust to remunerate the individual members of the forums. So that's our thinking at this stage. It's very much, we don't know how much the time commitment will be until we actually start the discussions, but the real purpose is to make sure that we have some good solid foundations and build relationships so that we can have at times what may be some challenging conversations, but have them because there are good foundations in place to enable that to happen. We feel at the moment, and I think this was the point that was made originally, that we are being too responsive, or not too responsive, but responsive, and not actually being proactive around trying to have the relationships in place so that we can have those conversations as they arise. So that's really the background to it. Sam, back to you if there's anything else you wanted to add.
So this report aligns with the Waikato Tainui Strategic Work Program, more so with the number 1, the first part of that program, where Māori representation in wards and all that stuff. And so the work that has been carried out in this report has been, how shall I say, work gone and planned with what recommendations that have come from the strategic report. So that's about it, Mr. Chair, Madam Chair. In regard to that, I'll take questions if anyone's got questions.
Yeah, so thank you for that, Sam and Gavin. So there's a bit to take in there, but for us it represents a really key initiative in moving forward to in particular, try and have that voice of hapu come through. And this is, I really thank Sam and his team for the work that's gone on to get us to this point.
Can I add something else, Mr. Chair?
Of course.
I think on my part, I must apologise to Waikato Tainui for, let's say, the time frames that these were carried out. I agree with the report from New Mara, where, okay, we were short notice, for this to carry, for this cope up with that take and all that stuff. But I will endeavour to make sure we get 2 weeks notice, at least, instead of 3 days. That's all.
So any questions and comments for Sam and the team?
I was just wondering, Sam, if we could get an understanding what the terms of reference are, because we had asked for us to be involved in the design, and there are no terms of reference here, and I'm just curious about the and maybe that's been an earlier piece of work. I don't know, but what kind of decision-making body is it? Is it just for information and kind of collaboration? Is it just about keeping mana whenua informed and vice versa?
Yeah, that's all it is. See, my style is there's a kaupapa on the table. I go out and let all the people know, oh, this is the kaupapa that's happening. And I have been doing that at Marae, Pukai and so forth. And then if anyone has questions, what I do is I put them in front of the person who can answer the questions. So my role is just going out informing people, hey, here's a kaupapa that's on the council on the table at the council. And I always say, you got any questions, come here and I'll put you in front of the right people to talk to.
But are there terms of reference?
Gavin, can you answer that one?
Gavin, maybe?
No, we haven't specifically drafted any terms of reference in Orangi yet. But it is very much as Sam said, and look, we're putting our toe in the water. I'm not suggesting in any shape or form this will be the perfect solution on day one. What it is to get the conversations going, to build the relationship, and as I said, to set those foundations in place that mean that when we do need to have challenging conversations, we all know each other and we can have those conversations in a respectful way. So that's it. I think about, for example, we have two key wastewater projects going at the moment. One is in Te Kauwhata and the other one is in Raglan. And in both those cases, we have had to rebuild relationships to start those conversations. So what we want to be able to do is have those relationships already in place. So when we come along to discuss an issue like that could be contentious in a community, that we already have those foundations in place, the relationships, and then we can have we can have a constructive conversation, to try and move things forward.
And these forums don't take the place of any formal consultation that needs to happen with mana whenua around any particular development or anything like that. Yeah.
No. So for example, those two cases I've cited, we would still need to do that and have specific engagement, not only with mana whenua, but also with other parts of our community as well. That still happens, that still needs to happen, nor is it a substitute for RMA processes either. So it's not intending to substitute anything, it's just really trying to have that good, solid relationship base. So instead of going along to a hui to discuss a wastewater issue and almost people not knowing who the council people are, that's what we're trying to avoid, that we're known and we can have those conversations. So for example, we've been doing some work in Raglan recently, and we now have some good established relationships in Raglan that we can go and have some constructive conversations and not necessarily agree, but at least be able to have those conversations and understand each other's points of view.
Right. Oops, sorry. Are there any other questions from or comments?
We've got a couple of hands up, so I've got 3 hands up there. Janet, I'll start with you.
Yes, thank you. Listening to this conversation, Gavin, it's a question I should have asked at council meetings actually was, We've heard a lot about the makeup of the clusters and the Mana Whenua Forum, and we're talking about building relationships between those people and council. But who are the council people? Because we haven't talked about who are the ones that will start building the relationships. And if there's a meeting every month with different clusters, which council staff or is it going to be elected members? Who exactly are the people that will start to build those relationships with from the council side? Because I'm a bit confused now when I'm thinking it through in detail and as opposed to a big overarching strategy.
So look, I don't think there's a simple answer to that through you, Mr. Chair and Chairs. The reason being that different areas will have different issues and challenges. So it really will be around assessing who are going to be the people that are most likely to be, from a staff perspective, the people most likely to be engaging with the community in those areas. But I think the aim will be to have some constant people and also include councillors. That is the intention. So it'll be the local councillors, and we'll just work our way through that. So look, we actually haven't got that far in terms of exactly the detail of who will go, when the meetings will be held, those kind of things. That's still work that we need to do.
Thank you. Maxine?
Kia ora, tēnā tātou, Madam Chairman. I agree with what Hinerangi said about having a terms of reference for this group. I had, perhaps mistakenly, been of the impression that this was more than a forum that we go to when things aren't going well, that this is also a forum that we continually engage with when things are going right, not just when things are going wrong. And I had thought that this forum might also have the opportunity to be advisory, along with all the other different forums that council has at its that are offered to provide advice to council on different issues. So I completely back Hinerangi that I'd like to see the terms of reference for the forum.
So through you, Chairs, look, if I gave that impression, that isn't what I intended to do, Maxine. So it is very much about having a relationship. It is very much about constant involvement and constant engagement. All I was really trying to illustrate was a couple of cases where we do not have these relationships in place, and that's where we've had to react. It is very much about constant consultation, constant discussion, ability to do exactly what you've suggested, which is bring issues to get advice, bring things and equally for Mana Whenua to raise issues with council that we can then either provide information about or feedback or feed into, or alternatively to go away and then come back with some answers. So it's very much along those lines. Writing some terms of reference will not be difficult because it will be fairly generic. And I'm happy to do that. If I could ask though that I'm happy to write some terms of reference and circulate those if we can do that, because we really want to make sure that we keep going, because it's taken us a long time to get to this point, and I just would like to keep us moving forward.
So, Gavin, if I may, so in effect, you're seeking an endorsement today, really, that the direction of travel is one that the JMA today sees as being an appropriate direction of travel.
Yes.
Thank you. Brendan, can I come to you?
Good. Well, I guess first, I think this is great that progress has been made to start bringing mana whenua to identify places where, like the locations there, these regions. So I just wanted to acknowledge Sam for your mahi there. As Māngai Māori on council, one of the things that I find is missing, and this is really going to help create that high level of connectivity between what council does and the communities and tangata whenua, is to have a voice of mana whenua from Arohi where a certain kaupapa is being discussed. I think it's been a real burden on council having to engage Waikato Tainui, Donna and her team, and then to identify those in a certain area around a certain kaupapa. So I think having these mana whenua fora is going to be really, really powerful, and having that strong voice. So really looking forward to this being in place. And I think when on the wards, those elected members of the Māori wards that'll be seated at council, it will also be helpful for them too. So they'll be able to ask council staff, well, what does mana whenua in this rohi, what do they say? Because that's going to help them make their decisions, right? Having that voice. And one of the things, which is an observation of this, is this kind of completes that real connection between what council does and tangata whenua and that relationship with Waikato Tainui. So this is really important. And I think the resourcing of this is really key. So to the extent that resourcing will be in place for these bodies to operate, there is a lot of kaupapa, and Donna will be very much familiar with this, that government has engaging Māori communities, and like what's happening in the health sector, what's happening in the education sector. And if you've got really well-resourced mana whenua fora, it allows great people to be in place and to really commit their time. So I just wanted to, I watch with great interest as to what resourcing can be provided for mana whenua fora, but also acknowledge that there are other government initiatives that will also need a strong local voice. And ultimately, you want these mana whenua fora to be really well resourced, so they can do their job well. So I just wanted to acknowledge that. And whilst this is what council is considering, north, south, east, and west, and with the 3 clusters in the north, what's really important is that we get this right for now, and we get the support, or Waikato Tainui can say, this is how we would tweak it. But once we get this in place, I think we're going to learn as we go. And if the location of these mana fora need to kind of evolve with time, then 3 years from now we'll be a lot smarter, a lot more learned about that. Yeah.
Brendan, I think that's a point really well made, that this thing will evolve and will possibly change its shape, but to be well resourced and get us underway is probably the key point I took from that as well. Kia ora, Hannah Rangi.
Kia ora. Just a few more points then, and just a couple of questions. One was, you made the comment about the financial resources or payment for the members to going through an iwi trust, and I assume as the iwi, that would potentially be us. So can someone elaborate on why you think that would need to happen in terms of going through another body as opposed to yourselves? What was the thinking behind that?
I guess it was based on what we saw other councils were doing in Narangi. So
Okay.
Yeah, I guess it was just a suggestion. So.
Okay, and I guess we don't understand that that's what other councils do. So
yep.
I would find it slightly surprising that would have to happen. So maybe that's just something that we need to continue to talk about then, or it can come out in the terms of reference around how that payment or financial compensation can happen for members. Just in terms of the clusters and how they were designed, Sam, what was your thinking around how they were broken up, and how do we get a reasonable number of marae in each that makes it manageable, or you're just looking for kind of geographies?
For two reasons, geography and the amount of people in the room. When we look at spokespeople from various marae, if you got about 20 people with all different whakaaro, how do you break it down? So hence why the clusters is because, like I said in the beginning, because it was a vast area, and if there's things happening at the port that are only affecting the port area, it'd be good just to speak with them. And for Rahui Pōkeka, all the way up to Meremere, okay, and if it's only involving that group, the port shouldn't be listening to Rahui Pōkeka kōrero. So that was just the thought of that, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. The other thing that I think that we really need to remember as well when we do this is that we still have the iwi in place, and it is really important that the iwi has a view, as well as mana whenua having a view, and that all of those relationships need to be managed with the same amount of care. And JMA is one mechanism for us, but obviously joint regular conversations through management and governance is another part of that for the iwi, as much as it is around formal processes for mana whenua and this forum now. I think the other thing that we need to remember as well is that this will be another hui that people need to attend, and we need to make sure we use their time judiciously, and like people have said, that they are compensated for their time so that they can dedicate that time as well. Because there's a whole lot of time that's taken already just in the resource consent responses and keeping on top of legislation changes and things like that. The other thing I think we would really like to see is just a bit more of a fuller consultation on what it looks like now. So here's the clusters that are proposed, here's the terms of reference, maybe in draft form, and we would like to be able to send that to all of our marae, so that we know that everyone has got the same level of information, because this is a reasonable consultation group, but we're conscious that even a couple of our bigger marae have not been consulted. And so we would like to be able to kind of ensure that all of our marae are as informed as the other marae who are on this list. So I think that would be a nice next steps, is to say, here we've got to around mana whenua forum, here's what the clusters look like, and here's what the draft terms of reference look like as well. And then we can get that feedback. And if people don't respond, then we would take that as a positive. And if they do respond, then we can think about what that feedback says.
And when we sort something out like that and put everything into place, we can also give it to Te Whakakitenga to inform all the members. Hey.
We can inform Te Whakakitenga, that's right.
Yeah. Ka pai.
Is there anything else, Mara, that we haven't covered off? Or Donna? Looks like Mara's frozen.
Yeah, looks like she's frozen. Yeah, I think you have covered it off. But yeah, I think there's a bit more work to be done, Sam, to be fair.
Yeah.
Because there's some big gaps in there. Some of our, as Hinarangi's already alluded to, some of our marae not even captured in there. So I think it just needs a bit more work in socialising. And it'll be good to see definitely good to see the terms of reference. And I'd also like to have a further conversation with you, Gavin, around those funding arrangements, because I'm not sure that system would work for us, to be fair. Okay. Kia ora.
Thanks, Axel.
Kia ora. So just trying to capture what we've talked about here. So I'm taking that, well, this will be my summary. So I'm just putting up as a straw man that the JMA, the proposal, the Mana Whenua Forum, with further work in regards to Hinarangi, you'll have to help me with the words there, the work you want to see with Sam for the next stage, as well as, Donna, picking up on your point, the terms of reference to be circulated by the CEO, including consideration of the reimbursement. Hinarangi, I'm missing some words in the middle. There was some bit of work with Sam.
I think one is that we're all supportive. I'd like to say that. Two is that just could we see the further work on the terms of reference, our involvement or not in the financial arrangements. So just flesh that out with Donna, and then a formal consultation or notification to all of the marae. And we can facilitate that, of course, on here's what we've designed so far, and any feedback, or we're moving on this, Yeah,
thank you. So
without any flags coming up.
Thank you. So endorse the proposal, further work on the terms of reference, including the respective CEOs, communicating on that, including the reimbursement, and notification to all maraes. Gayleen, have you captured enough there? Thank you. So I'm happy to move that. Hinarangi, are you happy to second that? Yeah, thank you. All right. So unless there's any other comments or discussion, no, then I'm going to put that. All in favour, please raise a hand. Opposed? Thank you. That's really positive. Thank you again, Sam. Big bit of work, not quite there yet, but well along the way, and great to have the endorsement of this this forum here today. Sure, Sam. Thank you very much. All right, I'm going to move to the next point on the agenda, which is the update on strategic projects, and I think Rishal is going to lead us through this report. Rishal, over to you.
It's indeed, Chair. Kia ora, Kuto. So, Chairperson, I'll take the report as read, but I'll provide a quick 5-minute overview, if that's okay with you, for the benefit of members of the committee. Okay. So essentially, this report provides an update on projects of a regional and sub-regional significance, which obviously has strategic implications for the partnership. Now, I should also caution that there are distinct governance structures that are involved, been set up to manage these projects, which both Council and Waikato Tānui are part of. So the purpose of this report is not to relitigate any decision made in those governance forums or to circumvent those processes, but to merely provide a high-level overview of these projects so that the committee is aware of progress being made. One of the key ones, of course, is future-proof, and you will be aware that the future-proof implementation committee on the 16th of September endorsed the strategy for consultation. So consultation is currently underway, and this closes on the 12th of November. Hearings and deliberations will be taking place in December, and hopefully the strategy will come up to EPIC for adoption in February, March. I should also mention, Chairperson, that considerable input has been received from Mana Whenua and also from Ngākaro Atua on the draft strategy, which has been incorporated, and that paved the way for EPIC to endorse the committee, endorse the strategy on the 16th of September. If there are no, Chair, would you like me just to carry on and then take questions at the end?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Just moving on to the Hamilton Waikato Metropolitan Spatial Plan Wastewater Detailed Business Case. This is the work which Jackie Collier is project managing. As far as the Southern Detailed Business Case is concerned, the committee will be aware that the governance group approved refined option 4A in April, which will be used to input into the detailed business case. So So that refined option 4A is essentially supporting a new wastewater treatment plant in the airport precinct, which will service the airport precinct plus Southern Hamilton and Matangi. Also a new wastewater treatment plant at Cambridge, which will discharge into the Waikato River. Upgrades to the Te Awamutu wastewater treatment plant, and also upgrades to the Matangi and also Tofre wastewater treatment plants in the short term. This detailed business case is expected to go to our Waters Governance Group before the end of the year, Chairperson, for adoption. So that's pretty much on track. And then as far as the Northern Hamilton wastewater detailed business case is concerned, which essentially is looking at wastewater solution for an area which covers Taupiri, Hopu Hopu, Ngaruawahia, Turkowhai, and also Horatu. So this work has commenced. So there was a hui last month, and that essentially is helping to provide the evidence base for this work. At this stage, we're expecting the detailed business case for the North to be completed by June 2022. And then related to this at a wider sub-regional level is the sub-regional Three Waters study, which Jackie is also leading. This work is essentially looking at an intergenerational investment in Three Waters, obviously focus on achieving Whaimainau outcomes and supporting the Hamilton to Auckland Corridor Plan. This work is being undertaken in 3 phases. Phase 1 was completed in 2019, which entailed the development of a strategic case as well as a current state report. Phase 2 is the phase we are in currently, and at the moment we are in the evidence gathering phase. And there are a number of component work streams to this, which includes 3 waters: water, wastewater, stormwater, also the blue-green corridor, also a work stream looking at environment credit market, and also one focus on Mataranga Maori. So that work has just started. And then phase 3, which will be from 2023 onwards, is essentially to start looking at the identification of projects and also the development of the full program business case. So that will come up later on. Just moving on to transport, Chairperson. Just with regards to Huia and also the Huntly Rahu Pokeka train station. So the relocation of the historic railway station building from Lake Puketerini to the Rahu Pokeka train station was supposed to happen in October this year, but we've had to obviously push it because of COVID. It's now expected to take place in 2022, hopefully in the first part of 2022. So when that's done, we'll have an official opening ceremony, but the carvings and to go onto the platform are being constructed at the moment. And as far as Te Huia itself is concerned, as you know, it's been grounded because of the lockdown. It will only be operational when under level 2 across the Auckland Waikato boundary. However, the governance group, which Donald is part of, is currently looking at improved levels of service, which includes interpeak services on a weekday, an additional Saturday service, plus a new Sunday service as well. So that's been considered at the governance level in the interim. And then the last component of the rail conversation relates to rail, high-speed rail. You will recall that in August last year, Minister Twyford, the then Minister of Transport, released some scenarios for high-speed rail between Hamilton and Auckland. The new Minister of Transport, Michael Wood, has now provided some funding for this work to be progressed to a program detail business case. An indicative business case. So that funding was made available last month, and there's a project team that has been established to work on this and it's expected that we'll have an indicative business case by the first half of next year. And then to close off the transport story, the Hamilton Wastewater Metropolitan Spatial Plan Program business case for transport is also underway. The geographic scope of this work extends from Ahinawai in the north and includes the whole of Hamilton, and extends down to Te Awamutu in the south, as well as to Morrinsville in the east. This transport program business case is essentially to recommend a program of prioritized transport activities for more detailed investigation later on to inform future LTPs and RLTPs to really support mass and frequent transit in the sub-region. So at the moment, the project team is in the process of developing some long list options, which will be shortened to some shortlist options before the end of the year. And the program business case itself is expected to be completed by March, April next year. And then finally, Chairperson, just with regards to the Infrastructure Accelerated Fund, so the committee would be aware that Council applied for the fund. So we applied for $114 million, primarily for upgrading the Huntly wastewater treatment plant, which is about 100 million, and for a bridge across the Waikato River to connect West Huntly to Huntly CBD and to the Raupatu train station. That funding would have helped to advance some of the housing development in the Huntly Ahinawai area, and which includes the Sleepyhead housing development, plus the redevelopment of state housing in Huntly, as well as supporting local Manawhenua aspirations for housing development as well. Unfortunately, we have not been successful. We have not been asked to progress to the next stage. However, our application has been put on a so-called reserves list, with the possibility of it being elevated to the next stage sometime in the near future. So we'll just wait and see what comes out of that. And then as far as the work itself is concerned, from a housing perspective, all of these proposals are feeding into the wider Waikato housing initiative work. So we will be ensuring that from a housing affordability perspective, the scorecard that has been developed at the regional level captures all these projects and are able to assess them from an affordability perspective to see which ones we can advocate more strongly with central government. Chairperson, I think I'll stop there, but happy to take any comments or questions. But I have one more matter to raise, which I'll raise after the questions or discussion.
Thank you. I think as it's probably obvious to all the participants on the call today that Vishal is a key asset for Waikato District Council. There's an enormous amount of forward-facing, really important strategic work that Vishal oversees, and of course is reporting back on today. So I'm sure there'll be some questions and comments from members. There's a lot there. I'm not sure if we don't need to attack in any particular order. Just happy to, I'm sure Vishal to take questions around any of the aspects covered.
Yeah, and Chairperson, I should have also mentioned that Manaki is my counterpart on a number of these projects. So I don't think she's on the call today, but yeah. Oh, she is?
Yep, she's here.
Okay, good. So yeah, Manaki's been part of this as well.
Good stuff. Hirarangi, I'll come to you first.
I was going to say that I do think that this is a significant piece of work, but you know, each project in their own right is significant, and just want to thank you, District Council, for the mahi that's involved in the team and the expertise in the team as well. And I know that that there are various layers to all of these projects in terms of governance groups and mana whenua groups and all those sorts of things. So, and having participated, I think, in the Future Proof, one of the sessions for Future Proof. So, what I was curious about was with the 114 million kind of not being successful yet, what does that mean for the ability for the district to make those investments needed in wastewater and, you know, activation of the CBD from the west of Huntley and things like that?
Sure. I'll answer, and then maybe Gavin may want to add, Madam Chair. So we have $36 million in our long-term plan for upgrade for the Huntley wastewater treatment plant. I think that's scheduled for 2026. So we were hoping that if we did get the funding, we would bring that forward. But that investment in our LTP is still there. It just means, you know, it'll still remain in 2026. But we were hoping to also provide, as I said, a bridge over the Waikato River. That's not in our long-term plan, but it's something which has been identified through the Future Proof Priority Development Area work stream. So that's something we're quite keen to see happen, you know, as part of that work that's been done with regards to the Huntley Priority and Raupatu Priority Development Area. So that bridge will essentially provide safer walking and cycling opportunities for residents of Huntley to connect from West Huntley to the CBD.
So, Madam Chair, so my comment would be that we're relying on Watercare to give us a really good price on the upgrade of the wastewater treatment plant. No, not seriously. I don't think this was an opportunity. I don't think that opportunity's dead yet. There's a bit more work that we need to do. One of the things we will be doing is engaging with the evaluation panel to understand some of their thinking, and particularly in this case, why they didn't support this. So we'll get a bit more information. Equally, there will obviously be a contribution that will come from developers, so that will help in terms of the contribution. So I guess we're just going to have to see how we go, but we haven't given up yet.
I think certainly from Gavin adding to that, it was on the wastewater side of things, it was very much an application, you know, under the or consistent with the principle of acceleration. I mean, we're going to do it anyway. We have to do it anyway. We will do it, and we've got the money set aside for it. This was about being able to accelerate that for additional, you know, outcomes that could happen quicker, and unlocking housing opportunities and revitalising the CBD, better walking, connecting access to the train station and the rest of town. All of those things could have happened a lot quicker, and that's what we were hoping to. But anyway, let's hope it can still happen. Sam.
Just to let you know, Mr. Chair, Madam Chair, that the carving for the Rahui station is completed and in storage, and the artworks from the various schools are still in progress.
Good, Sam. Any other questions or comments from Rochelle? There's a huge amount of mahi in behind this report, of course, and Manaki, you'll be very well aware of that, being completely immersed in it as well. Any other questions or comments? Or Manaki, perhaps you might want to make a comment on it?
No, nothing further to add, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Michelle.
You'll let your work speak for you, huh? Any other questions or comments from any members? Sam, you've still got your hand up. You may want to take that down.
So, Chair, if there are no more questions or comments, I just have one more.
Just hang on, Rochelle. Rangita.
Kia ora, Estelle. I just wanted to comment on the significant amount of work that's gone into the strategic projects. and just want to acknowledge Vishal and Manaki for the work that they put into it, because there are many layers, as Hinerangi said, and Hinerangi alluded to the question that I had was around that 140 million. And you just answered it by saying that it would have been a function to accelerate the work that needs to be done. I just wanted to reiterate that just the importance of the focus of where economic development is being targeted, which is right in that Hamilton to Auckland corridor. And again, acknowledging the work and keep up the great work that's happening.
Sure, appreciate that sentiment. Don, I'll come to you.
Kia ora, everyone. So just around reaffirming, I suppose, that work plan in front of us with regards to Waikato Tainui and Waikato District Council, and in the space that there is a lot happening. And Vishal, just around that Te Huia space, I know WRC are looking at probably starting the collection of narratives, which is going to include our mana whenua along that space. So it connects nicely with that whole process and the entity funding along with that. But just acknowledge all the work, Mahi, and the strategic approaches that everyone's having in this to connect to our whānau and marae along this whole WDC, connecting to the other entities as well in their projects. So, kia ora.
Thank you. That's great. And Vishal, you had one other matter you wanted to raise?
Yeah, it just with Jim Eben has asked me to raise this, Chairperson, just with regards to the district plan, and the committee members would already be aware that we've got an extension till the end, till the 22nd of January to make a decision on the proposed district plan. But then this is really starting to look at what happens after that in terms of the district plan work program. So the district plan team is aware that Waikatoria is no longer with the Waikato Tainui. So we really need to have a touch point, within the tribe in terms of the district plan work program post January next year. And I just wanted to ascertain, who the best person would be for us to engage on district plan matters post January next year.
Yeah, we'll get in touch with you, Vishal. We're recruiting at the moment.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And I've got a random question for you, Vishal, just because I don't know and you probably do. Any impact on our proposed district plan for this new increased density that the government announced yesterday for tier ones, or is it we don't have a tier one area directly in our district? So
no, actually we do. I mean, Naruwai here falls within that Hamilton metro area, tier one, so Naruwai, and then in the north, Tuko and Pocono. So what's happening is the future-proof policy planning and policy working group is meeting today, Chairperson, just to look at the implications of that announcement. But I think at this stage, we're just digesting it, and we will come back, to the committee and maybe even share something outside of the meeting in terms of the next steps or what it means for the district plan.
Just illustrative of the speed at which reform is coming at us, and this, I think, is intended to be in place next year. Extraordinary response. All right. Any further or final comments on this on Vishal's report? I
was just going to comment on that tier one signal yesterday. So that would, and your confirmation that Ngaruawahia, Pōkeno, Tuako would be affected, that would have significant implications for council.
Yeah, so we're just looking into that. Obviously, it just means that developers don't need to apply for consents. They can just, build three units, on a piece of land. But yeah, we're just looking into that implication just to make sure that it does actually cover those three areas I mentioned. But certainly Ngāruawai here does fall within the Hamilton Waikato metropolitan area.
Okay.
And I guess the other point to bear in mind is, Chairperson, the issue of I guess unique characteristics of some of our towns, like Ngāruawai here, and there may be a desire to protect Ngāruawai's character. So but also at the same time, there may be areas closer to the town centre itself which we could look at intensifying. But we'll digest the implications of it and come back to the committee.
Yeah, I think there. I think there is scope for that. To me, that does create opportunity, as well as because of the housing needs and the fact that there are rules in place at the moment in Ngāruawai that prevent intensification. And so, to me, there's certainly some upside from a Māori perspective around being able to provide housing. But you're right around thinking about character and the history and the, I guess, the landscape aspects as well. So, if you could keep us informed about where you arrive at on those conclusions, that would be really good. Thank you.
Yeah, Madam Chair, I should have also added that as part of the district plan, the proposed district plan decisions, there will be a decision on medium density zoning. So that will also, help support government's objectives as well. But we will assess that.
Kia ora. Don, did you have another comment you wanted to make, or?
Yeah, it was sort of around that stuff, around the medium stuff and the timeframes, Vishal. Are there any timeframes indication?
Yeah, January next year, Donald. So that's when all the decisions will be released at the same time.
So just another question around the Rahui Pōkeka. Is it the wastewater, the northern, the
wastewater treatment plant?
Yeah. And because that falls out of the metro, outside of that metro area, but that communications consultation to those in that area, is there a plan, and what would that look like so that our whānau and the marae in those areas know what that increase might look like, or business case be provided?
You mean for the wastewater treatment plant upgrade?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. I'm sure I'll have a chat with the waters team. Obviously, at the moment, we've just got funding for this in the LTP, but would make sure that at the appropriate time that there is appropriate consultation and engagement with the local community and mana whenua.
Kia ora.
Thank you. I think all that remains then for us is to receive the report. Can I have somebody move that, please? Thank you, Lisa, and seconded by Janet. Thank you. All in favour? Opposed? So that's carried. Thank you very much, Vishal. Really appreciate that, and Manaki also. Just a terrific amount of work, and then with the occasional curveball thrown in at very late notice. All right, well, that brings us to the final agenda item today. Gavin, I think this is perhaps your report to talk through, is it? Or have you handed this to someone? You need to unmute yourself.
All right. Okay, Mr. Chair, so just, where am I?
Page 35.
Yep. Okay, so yeah, it's really just an update on where we've got to, and really is showing that a lot of the things that we started have been completed or are in progress. And I guess it's really just highlighting the need for us again to go back and develop a new work plan. So that's pretty much my summation, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, thank you. And that picks up, of course, on the where we started. In fact, just prior to your own arrival, Gavin, that work plan is very much of priority to this forum, so that, as Hinarangi put it, we can, from a governance perspective, can look at that coming to us and make sure that the priorities align with our respective current priorities. So that's a good suggestion, and I'm sure, Marae, you want to speak to that.
If I may, co-chair, I'm just going back to the joint council hui we had in March this year, which I thought was last year, given the lockdowns. It's sort of making time feel a bit weird. I'm more than happy to share the list again. So at that hui, we provided some strategic issues that we wanted to build the work program around. There's a list of 4. And then we also had some operational matters that to me on the work program looked more like the operational list we had. So after this hui, I'll send that around again just to remind us, and then happy to come back. I've met once with council staff to talk through the strategic work program priorities. So I met with your new social procurement person. I met with the lady that does community. Julie. Yes. Yeah. So that conversation was to build the work program from that. And the one that's been presented today really looks like it's more in the operational sphere. So after this hui, I'm happy to send that list around just to be helpful, and then set up another hui to discuss again.
So I think I'm hearing an action point coming out of this, which is actually to, Marae, thank you, to distribute again, and then for a hui to be held with the appropriate persons between staff and, the JMA partners. And I think, Brendan, if I recall correctly from our discussion, you're also happy to put your hand up to be involved in the development of that work plan going forward.
Yeah, I'd love to. Yep, got it. Yep.
Yeah, no, that's really useful. And Gavin, you'll advise. So from our side, the contact will come from. I'm just trying to get the action point here. So the contact will come from whom? Who will lead this work for us?
So, I mean, it will start with Sam. So Sam will be coordinating things from our end, but there'll be, once we have another look at it, we'll, because there will be also things that we would like to see added to that list as well.
Of course. Yep. You had Sam's instant attention there. Hinarangi.
Oh, ka pai. What I'd really like to do as well is to have a draft done as soon as we can, in the next month or 2. And then maybe the chairs get together and agree that that's a good starting point. And then so that the mahi can continue before we get to the next 6 months. To our next formal meeting, just to keep things moving, of course, if that's okay with everyone.
I see some nodding. So within the next few weeks, an exchange of ideas. Within 2 months, a hui at the working level, and then by say month 3 perhaps or so, perhaps the co-chairs get together and just have an overview of that work. Does that capture it, Hinarangi? Yeah, thank you. Galen, do you have that clear enough? Gavin, that's okay. Neither you nor Sam look like you're having kittens, so I'm taking that as approval.
So my only question is just bearing in mind the time. I mean, the principle's fine. I don't have an issue with that. I guess if we either have to aim, I think, to have a plan drafted by the end of November, or all by Christmas, and then the chairs meet in January or something along those lines.
All right, so let me put that challenge to you, Hinarangi. Do you think that that the co-chairs should get together before Christmas or in January?
End of January, that's good. We might get a holiday this year, I don't know.
Yeah, at home, yeah.
Yeah, at home, that's right. At Raglan, maybe.
Oh no, Lisa's building a wall and Hamilton's going to pay for it. Right. Well, I think that's about that. So I think we need to, well, I'm sorry, let me not cut the conversation short. Are there any other questions or comments about any of the elements within the report itself on page 35? All right. If there's no further korero on that, let me see what the recommendation says. We're receiving the report, so I'm happy to move that. Can I have a seconder for that? Thank you, Lisa. All in favour, please raise a hand. Thank you. Opposed? So that's carried. Now, I think, Gayleen, unless there's anything I've missed that.
Yes, you have. There's the update from Māngai Māori now, agenda item 6.5. There's just their verbal updates.
Which is probably going to be the highlight. And Maxine has been preparing, visiting for the... Brendan has already unmuted himself. So yes, you're right. 6.5 update from Māngai Māori, Brendan and Maxine.
Okay, I'll go first since my mic's off. I just want to acknowledge that the good work that's been done around one, how council supported the wards, which is a real important step forward for council with Waikato Tainui, and also to acknowledge the other iwi on the periphery of the rohe. And I just also want to acknowledge the work that Sam's done around the mana whenua for. I think it's really, really important. I don't think we're ever going to get it perfectly right, but it's kind of like heading there, which is good. And I think that the kōrero today around the work plan is really, it's just going to put that korowai around all the mahi that we're all doing here on this call, that reflects that spirit of partnership, right? So I think it's positive. That's all I've got to say.
Kia ora, Brendan, and thanks also for lending assistance with the work plan to come. So really appreciate that. Maxine?
Kia ora. I think that the things that we've been dealing with in our committees have already come forward in the meeting today. I think that I think that council is in a tricky position in offering itself to take advice and guidance from Māori, because there are so many different ways that Māori can have input into council decisions. And I say that based on a conversation we were having recently, where it was mentioned how at the Three Waters Forum that was in Rotorua recently, it became evident that not us, but and other iwi had consulted at the iwi level, and that at the hapu level they were saying they've had no input, and at the marae level they were saying that they've had no input. And so somehow we need to find a way that that the voices have a chance to be heard. Now, I don't think that's something that council can sort out. I think that's something that as Māori we have to sort out, and I'm not sure how that happens. But what I would not like to see is that at an iwi level, there's a position with council that is put and agreed on, but that at a hapu level, it gets tipped, maybe even at a marae level, it gets tipped. And so we need to find a way that that those most affected by things have an opportunity to have their voice heard. And that's all I have to say.
Kia ora, Maxine. Any questions or comments from anybody in for our Māngai Māori? Hinorangi?
I guess I'm just trying to understand what the comments were that Maxine was making. I think council has significant responsibility around consulting at all levels and engaging at all levels with Māori, be they marae, hapu or iwi. And our relationship here and via JMA is quite formal, you know, in terms of the rules that we need to follow and how this forum works. I think today we've talked about Mana Whenua Forum being activated, hopefully in the not too distant future. So again, it's another way of having voices heard. But you know, as iwi, we can't and we don't try to speak over marae and hapu. We know that locally and on the ground, we act in a supportive way, and usually those conversations are marae and hapu led. But there is a role to play across the entire rohe as an iwi, and to have a view. We use our Te Whakakitenga forum, you know, whatever other forums we have in our network to be informed as much as possible by what our people want. But by the same token, at some point we need to make decisions. So I think those are important clarification points. And really the district, and as well, I think district council, I think the important part is that the district council has its own responsibilities and obligations with regard to engaging with marae, hapu and iwi and even individual Māori, and can't really resolve from that.
Yep, cool. And I tautoko that as well. Hinerangi, especially, I mean, the council's role is to, or responsibility is to its ratepayers, and all of us are that. And so,
Wait, just fell off the back of the fibre.
Frozen.
Let's see if he comes back. All right, no, look, that's good. Maxine, do you have any further reflection on that comment?
Yeah, I hear what's being said. I'm just mindful of a comment that was in a conversation we were having recently, and how even though in that particular instance, iwi had done their job, and then those who they represented were in a way destabilising the view that that particular iwi had put. So perhaps at the district council level, this group can be, you know, needs to help council to get to the right voice. Yeah, that's all I'm saying.
Got it. Thank you. Any other questions or comments for our Manga Māori? No? Okay, thank you. Are there any matters of general business that...
Mr. Chairman, I need a mover and a seconder to receive the verbal updates.
Well, of course, Lisa Thompson's right there to move and to second. Thank you. All in favour? Aye. Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Any items of general business that anyone wishes to raise?
So, Mr. Chairman, I mentioned to you yesterday that we need to confirm dates for 2022
yes.
for the JMA, because they're actually going to council on the 1st of November. Now, we have kept in line with what this year did and had it on a Wednesday. We've got one proposed for the 13th of April and the 5th of October. We put it early in October because we've got elections next year. So it's making sure that we have the JMA meeting before the elections.
Right, too, yeah. So those dates were circulated?
No, they haven't been circulated yet, but it's just socialising it here, and if you're happy for us to go ahead with that proposal. So I'll email you, Mara, to those dates so that you can circulate them round.
Yep. Do you just want to repeat them again, please? And just
13th of April, Wednesday the 13th of April, and Wednesday the 5th of October.
right. So we'll tentatively put those for consideration, and Mara, if you can come back on behalf of your side to say if that's going to work or not.
Just through the chair. Yep, that's fine. I wondered if there is a possibility of finding another date as well. Hinirangi and Axel, would you like to meet more than twice next year?
Well, we already have a end of January assignation in regards to the work plan, and perhaps at that time we can think about it. I think that's actually a really positive suggestion, Marae, that there's at least chair to chair is a more regular meeting than twice a year. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I would be really supportive of that. I think that's a great idea. In between hui would be great.
Yeah. Got it. So again, perhaps if we look at circulating that, getting that sorted for that. Thank you. Well, I think that brings us to the end of the formal agenda. So just an opportunity, Hinarangi, for a comment from yourself and me too, perhaps, and then we'll close.
Well, kapai, kia ora tātou. Just a thank you for, first of all, to management of both of our teams in terms of the mahi that they have done in preparation for the hui, and the mahi that kind of continues on a daily basis as well. We know that the workload is significant at this time, given the reform program by government, central government, COVID-19, and then just, our own mahi that we're trying to get done. Let's hope that next year is a different type of year. The other thing is, for me, these forms are so important for the long term. And I think that work program, if we can get that work program working in a way that it is visionary and captures the things that we think are important, and particularly with a Te Ao Māori lens in it, then I think that would be really good in terms of adding meaning to the mahi that's being done, and hopefully adding some value as well to the mahi that council does and the mahi that our team Waikato Tainui do. So thank you everyone for your contributions today. Been awesome.
Yeah, kia ora, and absolutely endorse those comments, and obviously we as the current members are finding and resetting perhaps. We had a long period prior, and then a change of membership, both from our end through the last election and then through your elections through this current term. So we're doing good work now to re-establish, reconnect, and making sure that we are aligned, so that as we move forward, our priorities as Burama said before he froze it, that we actually are, our rohe are very similar in a way. Yours is greater than ours, but everyone in ours is in yours. So we have an absolute commitment to doing right by our people and improving community outcomes right across the district. So, and I'll close again with, from my side, just thinking about the work that has gone on. So this is not a rubber stamping forum. We actually, we saw evidence of some real significant work that's happened since we met last, and with lots of work still to come. So yeah, that's great. Thanks to everybody for your love for the district and the people, and commitment to improving outcomes right across our communities. So with that, Sam, I noticed you've just come off your phone call, a great example of how men can multitask very successfully. I won't be asking for any comment on that. That was just a statement. Sam, would you like to close us with the karakia for today, please?
A tēnā rā koutou katoa. taka ki te ngāke, kua pua wai ngā hua, I roto I ngā whakaro, I ngā kōrero, I takahia mai wāngi a tātou, wāngi a koutou. Tō reira e pātua mātou matunui te rangi. Koe nei mātou I inoi atu ki a koe I runga te ngotau tami hukrai ki tō mātou kai whakora. Ki te tuku whakamoimiti, ki te whakawhatai atu ki a koe mō manakitanga ki runga I tēnei hui huinga. A koa, kei te rauru hoki a tonu, a mātua Aotearoa nei a huri noa ki te rohe nei e pāna a te rā a huatange I pā mai ki rungi a tātou. Nō reira, tēnei te inoi ki a koe e tātua, kia tau mai o manakitanga ki runga ki tēnā, ki tēnā, ki tēnā o mātou. Tō mātou kiingi, o mātou whānau katoa. I runga te ngōtau tami hukurai te tō mātou kai whakora. Amen. Amen.
Thanks, everybody. And yeah, we'll look forward to seeing the work happening between the hui this time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, Matt.